I'd like to welcome you to the American Homesteaders project kitchen. Here we're going to be making caramels today. There's very few ingredients used. First we have pure cane sugar, and it is important to use cane sugar. Karo corn syrup. This is heavy whipping cream, and you want to use a good heavy cream. You can use milk, but it will be more creamy and much better if you use a heavy cream. A little bit of salt, and this is kosher salt. It doesn't have any iodine or anything. We're also going to be adding a few ingredients for flavor, such as vanilla, and then we're going to roast some pecans. And of course, one of the most important ingredients in almost anything that you eat is butter. Okay, here we have the pecans. We're getting ready to roast them. We're going to put them in with the caramels, and we're going to roast those at 300 degrees for about 10 minutes. In about 5 minutes you want to stir them up a little bit. But the best way to tell when they're ready to take out, you'll just begin to smell the oils from the nuts come out, and it does totally change the flavor and texture. So I think it's an important step that you don't want to leave out. And then after we've cooled them, we'll chop them up before we mix them in. That's one of the last things to go into the caramels. This is actually 1 cup of butter and 1 cup of heavy cream. We're going to put these in the microwave to melt them and bring them up to temperature a little bit. And then we'll whip it together. But if you just use sugar, it will recrystallize, even though you melt it down. When you add the corn syrup, because it's a different type of sugar, it will basically make like a barrier between the crystals and each other, and then they can't reform crystals. You don't want grainy, sugary caramels. The only other ingredient that goes in while we're cooking is salt, and I put in about a tablespoon of that. It's kind of just in the palm of your hand. Then when we're done, the last thing we add to it is pure vanilla. And I put about a tablespoon of pure vanilla in, but you don't want to put that in too early or all the flavor will cook away. Okay, we're going to start out at a medium-low temperature. Now the corn syrup is pretty thick if you've ever worked with it before, so what I did is popped it in the microwave for about 30 seconds to loosen it up. Now I'm not a master candy maker, I'm just some guy that's making candy today. But one of the things that I am aware of and that you need to be aware of is, again, the crystals forming back in the sugar. So one of the things you want to be careful of is try to keep the sugar in the syrup and off of the sides as much as possible, and don't allow sugar crystals to reform. So I'm putting the sugar into the corn syrup. In our pan we have our mixture of sugars, which was the corn syrup, the cane sugar, and we also added 6 tablespoons of water. Now we have basically what you would call a simple syrup. It's a rather heavy simple syrup, but this we're going to allow to heat up and come to a boil. And when it comes to a boil, we'll put the top on it for 1 minute to allow the sugar on the sides to melt down. But we're just going to slowly incorporate all these things together. And also, I don't know if you had noticed or not, but we have a heavy cast iron skillet here. That's because I have a thin pot, and you want to keep as much distance basically away from the direct flame and the sugar to keep it from burning. So I don't have a heavy bottom pot, so I've used this cast iron skillet. It it moves the heat across very well and keeps a nice even heat under the can. Okay, we're about 15 minutes into the process here. The sugar mixture has begun to boil. I'm going to put the lid on the pot for about 1 minute. As you can see in here, I think there's some crystals that have formed on the sides. We're going to put the top on here and let those heat up and come down off the sides. Okay, as you can see now, we've had the lid on for a little over a minute. The sugar mixture has actually kind of changed. It's now pretty much a liquid that's boiling. The sugar that was on the side has all melted down and there's no crystals. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the butter and the cream, in case you forgot about that. We have it over here and we're going to mix that all into this sugar mixture. Now, you want to be kind of careful as you mix this in because it can foam up and be like lava. So I'm going to just slowly pour it in. Seems to be okay, so now I'm just going to pour it straight in. And I'll mix it in, and then we're going to let it go for a little bit. So we have all the major ingredients in here. The only thing that we have left to add is the vanilla, and we put that in actually as we take it off the heat. The nuts I have in a prepared tray or container, pan. We'll show you that in a few minutes. So now all there is to do is to bring it up to temperature, and we'll see what the temperature is now. We're going for about 247, 48, and we do have to watch the temperature pretty close because with sugars and candies, you go from what's called a soft ball to a hard crack in a fairly close range, and we don't want to get to the hard crack.
We're at just over 65 minutes here since we started the process of melting the sugars. We're at 239 degrees Fahrenheit. Note that the mixture has changed from clear to a medium dark amber at this point. Will continue to become a little bit more brown as we near the 246, 247 degree stopping point. We're at 247 and we're going to pull at 248 on the dot.
$248. We're going to take the heat off. Okay. Now we're going to add the vanilla. And you just slowly stir the vanilla in, it will react to it. It's picked up because I added alcohol to this sugar mixture. String it down a little bit, get ready to pour it out. There it is. I'm going to leave it sit here and cool. These caramels, if they turn out exactly right, and I believe they have, at room temperature they will just be barely melting.
And as you can see, the nuts start to come up through and permeate the caramels.
Okay, this is actually day 2. We let this sit in the refrigerator overnight after it cooled down and covered it. And I'm going to cut it today and then roll it into candies. So we're going to start out, I'm just going to use a knife today. I've used pizza cutters in the past. This seems to be working pretty well with the consistency. This is a very, very sticky candy though, so it does work a lot better when the caramel has cooled all the way and actually set. I'm going to work with this pretty quick. I'm I'm just going to basically show you how I wrap it in wax paper, and then I store it in an airtight, refrigerator or freezer bag, storage bag. Keep it in the refrigerator, and it stays good for, well, as long as I've ever had it. Now, that's a pretty big piece of candy there. It's probably bigger than what I want. You don't want to get carried away on your size because they're actually very rich. I like to roll them, get them somewhat round. And even though this is cold, I can still work with it. And one of the things I found out, I'm just taking plain wax paper here and I'm going to roll this up. I've done this when they're warmer, and it's not that the wax paper sticks, but the wax paper gets down into the little folds of the candy, and then that sticks, and they don't come apart very well. So right there you have it. There's a candy right there, and I'm going to do the rest of the candies that way, and it seems that some of these ends and pieces actually get eaten along the way. That's some good stuff. It just melts in your mouth. That's perfect. So we've pretty much completed our project on caramel making. On a difficulty scale, I'd say it's probably a 5 and a scale of 0 to 10. The main thing is watching your temperatures. Don't get in a big hurry, and use good whole ingredients. Don't skip, and use margarines, use cane sugar, and a good corn syrup. And then also what we did, we roasted pecans, but you can use pistachios, you can use it plain, they're very good without anything. And a lot of people use like a kosher salt or a sea salt as a sprinkle for salt caramel. So do it, enjoy it, experiment, make mistakes, and just have a great time with it.